Oh, I love that it always says you're live. Yes, I am. Welcome everyone to Jewel Loom School Live. It's Thursday night. It's 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. on the West Coast, and all the other time zones in the middle. And hey, I do know some people tune in from other countries as well. And if you're not here live and you're joining us afterwards, hey, thank you for being here. Always so honored that you take the time to watch the videos. We absolutely love inspiring people and teaching you mostly about how to weave on a loom, in particular the jewel looms. And so tonight we're super excited because we have Deb Floros, right? Did I say it Greek enough? She's in the background, like shaking her head. Because I was like, is it Italian? Is it Spanish? I've never asked her, but it's Greek. So pretty cool, right? Anyway, makes me hungry for, like, I don't know, hummus and feta. And how many times have you heard that? I'm sure she's like, I've heard it a million times. So listen, there's so much going on right now. Deb is going to join us. She has created a killer project. So much so that I was so incredibly intrigued by how she made this project that I broke out my silver silk loom and I started to. Here's my silver silk loom. This is Neely. It's like my baby daddy. um, and I was just like going to town, going to town. I was like, how did she do this? Why did she do it that way? And I'm weaving and I'm weaving. And then I put my own spin on it with my beads, because I didn't have sliders. And so when I went to bed last night, I think there's a video actually floating around of kind of like phase one. And then as I kind of got rejuvenated and I got back into it today, oh my gosh, it was just so cool. It was like all this stuff just came to life and I started to tell my story and I started to pour my heart out into it. And so I love when somebody does that. So I'm very intrigued and inspired by Deb. She is a signature designer, which basically means that when you see something online, like if you know who that is, and I know when it's a Deb. I just know that's Deb. And so, even on the TikTok, which by the way, if you're on TikTok, I just want to say that Deb is maybe, I think she might be 47 people away from, or 30 something away from 1,000. And what that means on the TikTok, kind of just like it does here on the YouTube, you have to have at least 1,000 people in order to go live. And so I noticed that today, and I want to give her channel a big shout out on the TikTok. If you happen to also be over there, please make sure to go follow Deb Loves Design. She'll tell us the proper one, and then maybe Joan can post that. But that would be a huge help, because when you get to go live, it makes a very big difference. And I did notice that today. So let's make sure to go follow her on the TikTok so that she can start going live. I don't know if that's what she wants to do, but now that I have put it out to the universe, she really has no choice. So there's your marching orders, Deb. She's dying in the background. So a couple of things, those gorgeous etched laser 6mm beads, they are almost all gone. And I want to show the gray ones, because I don't know if you all just couldn't tell how gorgeous these are in the picture, because maybe I took a sucky picture. I didn't think so. People have been buying them, but seriously, I want to keep them for myself. They're so beautiful. I just didn't know if you couldn't tell how freaking delicious. Look at, there's the shot. Oh my God. Why didn't you buy these first, people? They're so beautiful. Okay, this is the gray. It's like a light gray etched with a swirl sun. Seriously, they're to die for. The other one too, I don't know again, I thought my picture was good. And I'm not saying that there's like a lot left, because there's not. But these are the two where I'm just like, what happened? Because I really thought these were going to go. And then a lot of the other ones are all sold out. This is the deep pink. But again, I think the shot is over in here. The light seems to, oh, now they're falling everywhere. Anyway, I just wanted to show you those on the camera because they are absolutely delicious. And especially the gray, because I know, I was like, why aren't people buying the gray? Because I'm gonna pocket the gray if they don't buy them, because they're so stinking beautiful. Okay, anyway, Joan is gonna let you know what I have put together for materials that coincide with what Deb's going to be showing us. Deb, another reason why I love her is that she is all about repurpose, recycle, reuse, do it again, second time around. You know, like we would have fun on a Sunday going to all the places. And I love that about her. And I love that she thinks about the end user who, you know, who enjoys doing that as well, but may need to. And you still have alternatives. And so she's going to talk about that, which is awesome sauce. Jeanette, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly because we've never talked. Jeanette, I think it's correct. If it's not, tell me how to say that. She used the large vintage button from the Creative Soul kit last month, September. And I posted it in the school, and she showed how to turn that button, how to make a bigger shank so she could use like a leather cording. Super cool. We're going to get together on Tuesday, and not sure if it's going to be pre-recorded or live, but we're going to tape a little something just as a little like quick tip kind of idea. I want to start really helping the community, the Jewel Loom community that designs a lot with the looms and shows a love for the looms. I really want to like give you a shout out and be able to give you a platform to come on with me and talk about and show what you've done, because I think it's really important. And so, yeah. Hey, listen, it is my birthday. Thank you. Thank you for all the love. Joan, you're killing me with the banner in the school. I was just like, okay, after this is done and after I take Marlon Brando for the walk, I will sit down and I will read everything. I'm so grateful. But I also want to give a huge happy birthday out to Amber. It's Amber's birthday today, too. We are birthday sisters. And so make sure that you're giving Amber Scott a huge shout out and a big, big hello. What else is going on? There's one other thing, but I'm going to keep it under wraps until I know to actually talk about it. And yeah, so I think, well, I'm going to give you, Deb's going to come on. Well, I'm going to let her show you hers first, but I do, and I'll do all this other stuff later because I want to get Deb up here. So Joan, if you want to grab Deb, there she is. Yay.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you so very much for being here. I know that Joan has all of the different places where people can find you. I wasn't sure if you were like giving your TikTok a shout out, but how many do you have? 947?
I think as of this afternoon, I'm only maybe about 16 people away.
Okay. Did it get up to, okay, cool.
So,
cool.
Gosh, that will be an exciting moment.
Wow.
I've tried to grow it like not with like weirdos because there's some of those out there.
Yeah.
But
I grew up with weirdos. Because you don't really have like in some situations you don't. They just follow you.
You don't know.
But
I have blocked many. So
like if they're naked weirdos, then I'm totally
they're
out of there. I'm blocking the naughty people for sure. For sure, I'm blocking the naughty people. But
thank you for saying that.
Heck yeah, no, I'm like everyone's cheerleader here. So, we both love Nile. We both love silver silk, and there are so many things that you could do with silver silk. And I, kind of came upon it on accident, kind of like, a couple years ago when I was playing around, I had the fiber loom. It was called the fiber loom. And I was like, I wonder if that stuff, that cool stuff will work on here. And it magically just went into the grooves. And I was like, oh my God. And actually, this is the first bracelet I ever made. Pretty simple, just gorgeous silver silk with some beads. And then I was like, oh, well, my Delay needs to have his own loom. And so, of course, we talked about that and I showed it earlier, but this is the loom we're referring to. And it fits all the silver silk really well, and bigger materials. You're going to be working with the hemp, and you're going to kind of speak to, if a person doesn't have a silver silk loom, if they can use a different jewel loom. And I'm going to let you handle that. I do have a video out there floating around with what I ended up doing, but I'm going to let you go ahead and take over because we want to get into it. There's a part 1 where Joan, seriously, how smart is this girl? Like, I just, when she showed it to us, I was like, who are you right now? And where have you really been going when you say you're going out to lunch? Because I think you're sitting in on some sort of techno seminar. I was like, I didn't even know you could do that. So major shout out to Joan for being the tech goddess that she is.
Big shout out to Joan.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the platform. You're going to walk us through. At some point when you're just kind of like in your weave, I may say, hey, Joan, bring me back on and I'll show off some of the other pieces we made for inspiration, just so that it's not too quiet. But yeah, it's your platform, baby.
All right, baby. So thank you for having me again. I'm always so excited to be here. And this project is something that I, in my head, came up with probably about a year ago. And sometimes when I come up with something, I'm not in a place where I can write it down, or I can't really sit down and do it at the time. So I'll put a little reminder in my phone. And I have to say that reminder came up many times and I snoozed it, just like, don't forget to do the dishes or something. I kept snoozing it. And I think it was because I wasn't sure this would actually work. So I love working with sliders, and I'm going to show you some sliders so you know exactly what that means in a minute. But I love working with sliders. They are typically found in like a stretch bracelet or something like that. And I like to use them and challenge myself. So find different ways to use them. So it's one of my signature things that I do. I've made necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and I just love working with these pieces. So, I guess it's about 2 months ago now, I finally said I'm going to do this. So every week I block off a certain amount of time so that I can hone my skills. So, maybe practice something that I don't do day in and day out. And so there was a day about 2 months ago that reminder came up and I said, okay, today's the day. I'm doing it. And I sat down with the loom. I started playing around and it worked. And I was so excited. I rushed to get just a sample done. And I reached out to Juliana like right away and said, oh my God, what do you think about this? So this was a long time coming and I'm excited about this. So I thought maybe first I would show you what a slider is in case you don't really know. I can show you some examples. So let me flip my camera. If you guys don't mind for a moment, you're going to see my ceiling fan. I'm in Arizona, so it is still a little warm here. And I do have to have my fan on still. So I'm hoping everybody can see my work table there. So let me move this out of the way really quickly. These are sliders. These are some examples of them. So for example, this is a 2-hole slider. It's wood. It's really fun. Here's another 2-hole. It's a shell bead. And then you might run into something like this. So this is actually a 4-hole slider, and you can kind of see through it, but it still has a place for 2 pieces of cord or stringing wire or whatever to go through. And then you might find something like this little tiny guy. That's also 4-hole. And then I thought I had a round one. Yeah, I do. This is a round one. Just really, you know, I have a vast collection of these things, and I just pulled out like a small sample of them. But this goes to show you that you can really do just about anything with these things. And today we're going to make a loomed bracelet. And I found that I like to work with the larger ones, and I'll explain kind of the reasons why you may need to make some modifications if you pick a different kind of slider. So that's sliders. And I would encourage all of you. So I'm going to get on my soapbox for like half a second. So all of these came from they're harvested from necklaces and bracelets that were previously loved. So somebody loved them before and then they cast them aside. And I either bought the piece of jewelry and cut it up, or I bought the pieces and parts that somebody destashed. And I personally believe that you should never throw anything like this away. So, you know, we should reuse these things. If you have a slider bracelet in the bottom drawer of your jewelry box or way back in the back of your closet, now's the time to bring that out, cut it up, and you can reuse those pieces and create something completely different. So that's my soapbox for a second. And let me show you, this is the prototype that I started with. So truth be told, Deb is still a bit of a novice weaver. So you'll see this isn't perfect weaving. And this was also me rushing to get this done because I was so excited that it worked. But these are slider beads that are wood, and they're curved and a little flatter on the bottom. And I'll explain to you how I put it together. These are similar to what we're going to work with today. They're also wood, curved, flat, absolutely flat on the bottom. And then here's a fun idea too. This is a solo slider. This is lucite, and it's just one big honkin' slider. And I found a fun little lucite bead to go with it. So, you know, the options are endless. I like a trio, so we're going to do another trio today. But this is just really kind of a fun thing, and I love that these look very bohemian. They look very much like a statement bracelet. This, I mean, look at this big honkin' guy. This is absolutely fun. So if you just want to wear one bracelet, you've got a big honkin' bracelet to work with. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to make a completely new bracelet, and I've gotten it started. So let me kind of summarize where I've been with this one. Now, Joan, the genius that she is, created the first video, so that you have an idea of how we warp this project. But let me tell you before I actually show you, if you were to choose, let's say you have a slider like this in your stash and you really want to do this, the material that you need to use, you need to make sure is going to fit. So I can tell you that a 1 millimeter hemp that we're using today would never fit in this slider. So if you want to use something like this, you'll need to rethink what you're going to use from a stringing perspective, and you may not be able to use this particular Jewel Loom loom. you may want to use the original loom because it's meant for smaller materials. So, all these bracelets I just showed you are all similar in size. So they all work with this loom, and they all worked with 1 to like 1.5 millimeter hemp. So I'm just throwing that out there because today we're just going to show you this idea, this concept, and these particular beads aren't available from Jewels, but you could go and find these kinds of things. You can search on eBay. You can do a Google search to see if you can find such things. If you're part of a de-stash group, you might find that people are de-stashing these kinds of pieces. And you can also buy some from big box stores. They may not be exactly this type, but you may find something that you can work with that's a slider to try this out. And Jules also is going to share a little later a project using just regular beads that is somewhat similar to what we're doing here, same kind of concept. So the sky is the limit, guys. So this is just to show you a technique, a way to use something that maybe you haven't used before on your loom. So now I'm going to show you where we've been. So you're actually going to use 2 separate strands of hemp. So this is a 1 millimeter hemp. And what I did was I took 1 strand and I wrapped it around the back and pulled it all the way around, and you've got 4 teeth showing. I don't know if that's a proper term. That's a Deb term, I guess. And then you're going to put on your slider beads. So you could actually string them on before you put them on the loom. So you could create a loop like this and then slide them on, and then then warp this particular piece of hemp. You're going to want to bring it down, secure it at the bottom, and then you'll take a second piece. Now, both pieces that you're going to use for your warps, you'll need about a yard. So you may not need the full yard, but we say safe side, use a yard. So you're going to add that piece, and it's going to go up around, it's going to go down, around, and come back up through the particular notch next to the notch that we're already using for the previous 2. So you'll do the same thing, pull it around, secure it at the bottom, and then you're warped. Now, these guys are going to be on your loom then. And they slide. So there's a reason they call them sliders. So you're going to have these on your loom. And what you're going to want to do is push them down to the bottom when you get started. So you're going to want to push those guys down out of the way. And another design decision you'll have to make is how much weaving you need to do here, how much weaving you want to do between your sliders. And some of it may depend on the size of your wrist. So totally up to you. Maybe you want to do the solo. Maybe you want to do just one guy in the center. Maybe you want to do a whole bunch of them. But you'll want to, engage, some sizing of your wrist to figure out how much you want and how these things will sort of sit on the project. And you'll also need to allow for some room to complete your closure. So again, I'm still a bit of a novice, but this is the closure that I did. So I created a loop. I did some wire wrapping to secure it, and it adds a little bit of pop of metallic. And then I've got a large hole bead. So for this particular project, I've got a gemstone large hole bead that we'll work with. And it kind of matches this sort of neutral tone that we're working with. So those are the design things that you'll need to figure out. When I grabbed I think this is about 8 yards of 1 millimeter, which is a bear to work with because it's so much. You can do your weaving and tie off and tie back on if you run out. So if you're uncomfortable with a lot, you'll just want to make sure that your knots are strategically placed. I wouldn't recommend that you do any of that in between your sliders. So just something to think about there. So we've got a lot of material. You'll want to make sure that there are no cats around to grab the strands. You'll want to make sure that there's nothing that all of that material is going to catch on as you're moving it through the loom. But I started the process. I've got about 2 inches here of a woven section. Then I pushed up my first slider, and I can show you on this guy what the bottom looks like. So you'll see that it just the hemp just kind of goes through that warp and just becomes part of the base. So you've got sort of a little cradle that you're creating for it. When you're looking at it here, it looks like those slider beads are just kind of sitting on the warps, and they are. So when you first start, it won't look like that, but when you start to weave, that's what will happen, is they'll just sort of start to settle down onto your warps. So I've pushed up my first one, and I decided that what I wanted to do here was create 5 rows. And then I thought that we would start here by me pushing up this bead. So that's the first bead, the second bead that we're using. And so now I'm going to start, I'm going to show you what I do. Now, even if you try to do this bead is curved. It will never go on top of that slider, but you'll want to bring it around like so, just kind of under and around, and you're just going to pretend like it's not even there. And another silly thing I do is I put tape on the end of my hemp to use as kind of a needle. I know it's kind of dorky, but that's just what I do. So I'm going to come around, and I'm just going to pretend like I've been weaving all along, and that bead's just there. And it's going to look a little wonky. I always think like my first few strands or my first few passes are always wonky because I'm still a beginner, so I feel like it always looks a little wrecked in the beginning. So I would even say that when you start after each one of these beads, it looks a little wrecked, a little wonky. And look, I'm all tangled up. I did nothing with this when I put it down, and yet it still gets tangled. Anyways, all right. So I'm going to pull that through, and it's just going to create that little loop underneath. Just going to like create a little foundation. And I'm going to pull that there, and I'm going to do 5 rows. And I want to actually end my 5 rows on the opposite side of where I started, because I kind of want those little foundational passes to, gosh darn, I want those foundational passes to be on opposite sides if at all possible. It doesn't have to be, but I just think if you do see the bottom, it just looks a little bit better if it's, one's on this side, one's on this side, one's on that side. Just what I like to do. So I'm sorry, this is like a lot of material. And then keep going. And it's just as if the beads were not even there. They're just, we're just going around them, just working around them. And something else to think about when you're sizing this bracelet. So I have to say, my first attempt, because it was rushed, it's probably wouldn't even fit a child. It's just it's so small. My second one was pretty small too. And the last one was just a hair too big. So I suggest for this kind of a style of bracelet that you probably want it to be taut to your wrist, not tight, but taut. So it's a little bit cuff-ish. And you know, that would be a better way for this to fit. But of course, it's personal preference. If you would like it looser, that's perfectly fine too. And I do think this just looks a little wonky as you're getting started, but it's it will tighten up as you go along. And I try to actually, one of the things I've started doing is holding that last, holding the last row up a little bit until I get all my material through, and then kind of push that guy up. So we've got a good start here. I want to be able to show you guys, I wanted to at least show you the pass underneath the slider at least twice. But this is kind of a long project. The weaving, the weaving of the hemp and then the finishing of the bracelet is a little bit challenging too. So this is a commitment, a time commitment project. Maybe not for Jules, because she could probably whip this up in about, half a second. She's so fast. Maybe some of you other guys too, because you've all been around watching this for a while. All right, so we're getting there. So now that's starting to look a little legit as weaving. Almost ready to add our next one. And you see, this one is not in my way. And if you are doing a project with more sliders, and you're going to be getting pretty close to that end, and you just be aware that is going to take up space away from you if you're planning on needing that space as you go. So just something to be aware of. But I like the idea of just just having like a focal or 3 pieces. You could do 2. And I was even thinking these wood beads are really cool, but wouldn't it be interesting to add like glue on some rhinestone cup chain and really like throw the whole thing into a different vibe? Just kind of glue that onto the top. Just saying, something to think about. All right, I'm going to do one more pass this way, and then I'm going to go back the other direction. So I've got I'll have 5 rows when I go back in the other direction. Have everything like tightened up. I want to go under the next bead on this side. I think even if you did like 1 extra pass, it's not going to be substantive enough that it would make it look weird. So bringing it all over here, and then I'm going to cinch that up and make sure that bead is pushed back. I want everything to be kind of tight. And then I'm going to slide up my next bead. It's a slider. So we've got our little trio. And I just love this sort of all neutral look. So here's my cord. I'm just going to pretend like I'm just doing another pass. Not going to pay any attention to that bead. It's just there. It's just not causing me any trouble. Going around that. And it's going to look a little wonky in the beginning, but it's going to tighten up as we go. So it's just got that little loop underneath the bead, and we're just going to keep going. And now that we've got our trio on, we're going to create to finish, the length of the bracelet. And truth be told, I'm not even sure this is going to be long enough, but for the sake of our demonstration, that's what we're doing today. We're going to pretend like this is going to fit me or someone that I know. And I just love the movement of hemp on this loom. I think I described this before on this channel, that I love the sort of Zen feeling of just weaving, just a simple weave. It's a simple weave, just really not having any sound, but the sound of that hemp going through the warps. I don't know. It's just sort of meditative. And I've done this in complete silence, and I've also done it with music, loud music.
Hey, I'm here, Deb. Joan,
Hi.
do you want to make me the little? Can you make me little? Or wait, you know what? Don't make. You're weaving now, right, Deb?
What?
You're just weaving right now?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
going to put everybody to sleep. I'm going to get everybody into a meditative state, and they're all going to fall asleep, and we're in trouble.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead then and start doing a little show and tell.
Okay.
Fluff my hair while you're doing that, since you're doing the same motion.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that when probably my first half an inch to very possibly 3/4 of an inch of weaving, it was a poop show. It was just, I don't know why. I was just having and we've all experienced that, and so I just kind of want to say, like, for me, and I know you all are going to get on there and go, Jules, it was a piece of cake. But if it's not, I just want to let you know that it's normal, because what happens when you're doing the weave is, like, it takes numerous back and forths, as you're doing the wefts, right? To really see the look of the weave come to fruition. Yeah. So, you're going to the left and you come back and you go to the right and you're like, and you do it again and you're like, and you do it again and you're like, oh my gosh. Be patient, stay with it. It all comes together. And so if you don't have that experience, then you're a rock star. But if you do, at least you know that you're in good company. And so that's my little story on that. And I did not get to show off. So I finished my pendant from last week's show. I think that was last week. I can't keep my time frames together. But I ended up stringing it onto some gorgeous silver silk, and I flippin' love it. So we'll have to have Joan show off the things that she made too, that totally in on this piece. Okay. So going back to, I showed you that this was the original piece that we did. So Deb's working on weaving. She's got this whole new concept where you can use repurposed pieces, which I absolutely love. I cannot wait to hear about your treasure hunt for that. And, oh, there we go. Okay. So there was that. So that was the first thing. I don't necessarily remember what the second thing was. I feel like it was a combination. I feel like it was this more masculine palette, again, with the gorgeous silver silk and just some beads, and then one of the Jewel Loom buttons. Then we kind of went into let's see. I don't know if I don't care. I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, then this is where I used some double hold gemstones and did some wire weaving, and that I flippin' love this piece and just the way it feels. Joan will have to tell. I think this is the pipe chain because it's more sturdy. Joan, is that correct? Is that pipe? No.
Is there a hole in the middle that you fed something?
No, it almost looks like leather. Look at it, and it's super
Is there
stiff.
a leather one that could be used like that, or there's pipe chain where you could feed the pipe chain? You could feed like what?
Oh.
That's the pipe chain.
This is pipe chain. Yeah. Okay. So we did the pipe chain on the Jewel Loom. And then I don't know if you remember this go big or go home piece that I did. Oh my gosh. I love this with the button.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. So stinking cool. The silver silk is like so amazing. And then I love this one too. I think we did this one in the Jewel Loom. In the Creative Soul. I can't remember. We've done so many projects. But I think probably now this one just makes my heart go crazy. But yeah, this is the one that I did with fibers and really gorgeous sari ribbons. I even weaved some beads in there. You've got your silver silk. You've got a Jewel Loom button. And then, of course, Nilay's, findings that he has from the shop as well. So there's just, to see the evolution of where we started with silver silk and the loom, this whole idea that we could be weaving with silver silk and then had that, that silver silk gets its own loom, like what? And you look at everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and show my piece again. When I saw what Deb was doing, I was so intrigued, and I was like, I must know why. I must know the ways. I had no sliders, but I remember to have these big, huge, voluptuous beads, and I was like, please let the 1 millimeter go into that hole, and it did. Thank you. And so, yeah, so here is my take on Deb's project.
Love it.
And what I ended up doing, these big, delicious guys are in the shop. And so I did what she did. Okay, I set up my loom exactly like she did. I started weaving with the turquoise blue 1 millimeter hemp. And, I take that back. I did a row of fire polish. These are the 5 millimeter fire polish because I'm really liking the idea of starting with a row of beads when you're going into especially a fiber project. If you're going to use a slider, then obviously a row of 8/0s before your 6 millimeter beads. But anyway, so I started with that and then I started my weave, and you can kind of tell, like this was what was my first part? Was it this side? I don't know, whichever side was a little more uneven. But anyway, so I did the weaving just like she did. Had added these big old, I was telling her it looks like a nest. It's like this gorgeous birthing nest. I just got it caught into the wire. And as I was putting everything together, I was like, oh, I want some silver silk. I don't know how this just happened. All right, I'll deal with that later. Oh, come on now, Hooey. All right. But I added some of the silver silk. Whoops. Some of the silver silk is like little fiber embellishments. And then I looked in my drawer. I got in my drawer where I keep all of my things. And I found this big old hunkin' 18 gauge coiled wire bead that I did. And I was like, come to mama. Like, you need to be on the So I basically stuck a piece of 24 gauge copper up through the wire bead. And then I bent it like into a horseshoe, and then I fed that into the 2 beads, and then I pulled it forward, and then that's how I made, to close it, I did the swirls. I
love it.
Yeah. And I would just like to say I was doing swirls with water before most people. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to take credit for it because, after all, I am the fire behind. What am I? The fire behind the wire? That wonderful article that was written. So anyway, all kidding aside, I flippin' love this. I'm going to have to figure out how to untangle my little piece here. And by the way, I've used this material right here numerous times now. If you go into, because I got it at Michael's, if you go into Michael's and you see the skein of this type of fiber where it's really funky, it's normally, what I have found is they keep it on an end cap, and it typically is what you would refer to like a power panel, so it's not as big as an end cap, so it's like this big.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway, regardless of where it's sitting, just buy it. Just buy it. Take your coupon and go buy it, because I am not kidding you when I tell you I have had this material for a few years now, and I'm still cutting away with the same skeins. So it's a plethora of fiber. You can use it in a lot of different projects, and yeah, it just rekindles that desire to go and buy more in more colors. So this is my take. And then I just added these to the shop, these big old hunkin' gorgeous wood buttons. So they're in there as well. And yeah, so we'll just, let me see if I could get it on here. Whoops, it's a little heavy. It's not heavy to wear. It's just more, there's a lot of weight in the middle. So when I I'm going to put it on down here out of camera.
It's a hunk of burning loom
It's an Elvis
bracelet.
Yeah, it's an Elvis bracelet. It's an Elvis bracelet. Okay. Okay, there we go. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Seriously,
I love it.
Yeah, I know. I just can't. Look at.
It's fantastic. It's so fantastic. Makes this bracelet look so boring.
No, but see, listen, when I do a signature piece, what is it, y'all? It's go big or go home, right? Like, I think people kind of know. I remember when I did my piece for Jesse James last year. Dear God, I thought Sarah was just going to die. Because at my first piece for that whole winter camp was like so in your face big. And like I had to tone it down. But that's just, I really think for me, especially, like I'm a true storyteller when it comes to creating. And there are times when I'm pouring it out.
Yeah.
I'm pouring it out. And let me tell you, I've had a lot to pour. I've had a lot to pour. Okay. And so, yeah. I
think it's the way that we, like makers, we do like tell our stories. It's like therapy
Yes.
for us. Just saying.
It's super therapy. And that's how come I love birthing the looms. Like when I birthed Nile's loom, it was from so many different places. First of all, I adore him. I just think he's such a precious, precious soul. And so, to develop that loom for him was an honor. And that had a whole story with it and a product with it for the silver silk chain. When we did the goddesses, also known as the sunweavers also known as the goddesses, they came with an extremely amount like passion and hurt and healing and joy and all the words. And it was so deep inside when I gave birth to that goddess line. And every loom has been like that. And so, yeah, I don't know how we just got off onto that tangent, but that's my birthing story about looms. But so just the whole go big or go home. That's my thing. Super stoked. And I love it. I love it. I'm going to wear it tomorrow night. I bought a new duster, I think that's what, right? Top.
Yeah.
Like a duster. Like a coat, but not. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm going to wear this. That's what
It's
my
fantastic.
back. So this
It's
is how I
fantastic.
fix my back. So my ending is one of my typical endings. You know, make it easy peasy, pumpkin squeezy. Yes. How did you put that on your bracelet? So what I did, if you there's a picture somewhere of the bracelet, Nancy, just being in the stage of the warps with the two beads. Okay. And I was like, this is not enough. And so when I took it off of the loom,
It's
yeah, Joe.
750.
Oh, yeah. When I took it off the loom, I didn't like seeing the backside. So Nancy,
Yeah.
what I did was I started to cut silver silk and all these gorgeous, pieces of fibers. And then I did a simple raya where you fold it in half. You fold your fiber in half, and then I tucked it under the warp, and I tied them on. I did that with the silver silk too, so that's pretty impressive because this really skinny 3-needle chain is flexible enough to do that, and I love that so much. Okay, so
Juliana, one quick thing. So I love your idea of putting beads along the start, and I'll tell you what I did after like my second, or I think it was maybe my third bracelet, or
yeah,
third bracelet. I figured it out. I actually tied on to both ends.
Yeah.
Or on the outer warps, but I still think it's a little wonky, and I think the beads would actually help that tremendously.
Yeah. I highly recommend putting a row of beads first and then start your weaving, because you can also do, how I've started to go under the beads and back over. So I'm like really getting them in there nice and taut so that they're not moving. And then I start my weave. But here's the backside, Nancy and everyone. Like I literally was just doing a raya loop, very simple. Again, you take a piece of, I'm sorry, I don't have a piece, but like just imagine the beads are a piece of fiber. You put them into a horseshoe, and then you put them under, and then you flip that, and then you just tie it on. It's pretty simple. I closed mine off, like I said earlier, by putting the warps through the button, and then I wrapped them, and I just did the bottom. My ends are very typical of what I normally do. I love what Deb did with hers. I think at this point, Deb, what do you think about timing?
Yeah, so Deb is slow.
Yeah, no, you're not slow. This took a lot, girlfriend. I was working until the cows came home last night. Like straight up.
And
what I think would be best. So in this stage of the project, Deb would just continue to finish to warp. I mean, weft, also known as weaving, and then she would be taking it off the loom and finishing it. I think because it's almost into the hour.
yeah,
That, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're either going to need to like tape that or come back and do part 3 at some point. You're going to Hawaii.
Yes, next week.
Yeah. So we won't have you back next week. But why don't you just show off some of the ends? Because seriously, this community is very smart, and I think if you visually get rid of me, Joan, and let her show all her finished ends.
So I'm just going to bear my inexperience here. So you'll see these aren't perfect, guys, but the last one I did, I like the best. So I'll show that last, but this was the first one. So the first one I did, I cinched up all the cords, and you see this end is kind of messy, but I put the bead onto the cords, tied an overhand knot, and then just, frayed my end. Then I created a loop with the other end. So this is the end that's hooked over the top of the loom. And I used some 24 gauge wire. So this is just craft wire, artistic wire from Beadalon. And it's a double loop. It doesn't look, all that great, but it's going to be wrapped around your bead. So that's one example. That was my first one. This one also looks a little wonky, and truth be told, the loop does not fit over the bead, but same thing. I wrapped around, in this case, the all of the pieces, and then added my bead, then knotted, and over here, wrapped, and then I've got my loops. This one, I don't know. The end is kind of wonky, but I actually like this longer silver piece. And I love this giant bead that I found. And adding the silver on this side also ties it back to that. I wear a lot of silver jewelry, so if I have this, sitting next to some other bracelets, that silver ties back, and you can just put the bead through the loop. This loop is a little too big for my liking. This is the bracelet that's a little too big. And this is why I should have tied both ends or used beads. I actually really love that solution. But I'm still learning. So this journey of making these bracelets, I'm glad that functionally you can put a slider on a loom and create a bracelet, but I'm still working on the fine tuning of the finishing.
Deb, I think they're fantastic. The thing about weaving is that I especially this kind of weaving where you're using fibers and everything, I just feel like there's so much truth in your very first piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that as designers, I do respect and understand what you're saying about, like it's a new thing in your wheelhouse. They're spectacular. I mean, I think they're like off the flippin' charts spectacular. And, there's so much to be said about, as a designer, coming up with an idea and then along the way perfecting it. And that's what you just showed us. And I do the same thing. And that's why I was so intrigued by this project was, what did she do? And I know the Marias and the Jeanettes and the Loris and everybody, and Kara, I know they're going to look at all of this. The whole entire community is going to look at this project, and Joan included. I bet she's like going to go thrift store shopping while she's gone, but she's busted up. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. So if you want to come back on so we can say goodbye. And Joan, what do you want to come on really quick as well? Just good.
Have to do the celebration online. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Don't want me really singing or make everybody
Oh my God.
The crown. You should be wearing a crown.
I know. I can't believe I don't have one.
You need one.
I got almost just said I have a hamburger hat. Oh my God. I have a hat. I have hats, but no crowns.
That's next on the list.
That's next on the list. So I just looked, and a couple minutes ago, you needed 15 more people for the TikTok. So we'll just keep pushing it. You're going to get there. Totally.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Thank you so very, very, very much. If we get an overwhelming, hey, I really didn't understand how to end it, we'll revisit it when you get back from Hawaii. And, but honestly, guys, I really just think that if, looking at her examples of how she ended her project and what we have done, I think you should be fine. But if you're not, all you have to do is reach out and say, hey, I need a little more. And so we'll get Deb back when we can. And so gosh, I love it. I just I love that you showed, we mainly have been showing the silver silk loom, obviously with silver silk. And so it's fun that, you took the weaving product, because, there are people out there who maybe are just like, well, I don't even know what silver silk is, which please. Who is that doesn't know? There are people, I'm sure, just like they don't know what looming is. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful connection all the way around. I'm so appreciative. Can't wait to see photos of you in Hawaii. And please come back. I love having you here. And I love being inspired by you.
I love being here. And I just want to continue on this journey with everybody learning. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep trying new things. And, I'm happy to help if anybody has a question. I'll go into the group and I'll put pictures of these 3 bracelets.
Yeah.
In case anybody wants to just take a, zoom in and see. You have to take the imperfections with it, but
no, I think that's a great idea. Do some close-ups on that black one, because I think people are going to really be intrigued by, well, all of them, but I would take shots of their, their bottoms and their tops. What, I know I've been shouting out your TikTok, but what is the biggest thing that the Jewel Loom community can do to help you?
Oh gosh. I'm in all the social media places. So, I'd love for follows on Facebook. I'm Deb Loves Jewelry Designs on Facebook, and it's Loves, Luvs.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram as Deb Loves Designs, TikTok as Deb Loves Designs, and I have a little infant-sized YouTube channel called Deb Loves Jewelry.
Okay.
And it's in its real infancy stages, but it'd be nice to get some more followers, and I'm promising more content in the coming months. So it would be great if everybody gave me some likes and follows and all of that. I would really, really appreciate it.
Okay. So we're super close to the TikTok, which we're pretty sure that's just going to happen in the next probably 28 to 48 hours organically. And, but if I hear you correctly, the next big thing is like, let's help to build your YouTube community.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be awesome. It's hard to get anybody to see any content I'm putting out now. So if I can front load some followers, then it's going to snowball eventually. Yeah. So I just got to push it over the edge eventually.
Yeah, that's great. No, I want to make sure that we help you do that. And, there's so many different ways to monetize your content online. And I truly believe that we should be helping each other do that. And because together we're stronger, we're bigger, right? So if we're each, I learned a long time ago that if this person is doing well, then I'm doing well. And if I'm doing well, then he's doing well. And if he's doing well, then she's doing well. And collectively in our creative world, it is better that we are all doing well. Yes. Because then we all can rise together, and it's just like an energy flow of awesome sauces. So don't ever get your panties in a pickle and think, oh, I don't want that person to do well, because that's not good. That's not good for you or it's just not good. So
no. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Joan for her help. And it's so good to be here with everyone.
We love our queen. All right. Have a great time in Hawaii. I'm going to take you, Miranda, for his walk. And I love you guys. Thank you, Jewel Loom community. You are the bestest, like ever.
Bye, everyone.